Joining us now, he usually joins us at 4, but 4:30 this week. You can hear him on the Believe in Eagles podcast every week with Lee Mayock. That is the great Mike Mayock. Mike, thanks for accommodating us today with the slight time change, and thank you for joining us as well.
My pleasure. What's happening?
Well,
what's up, Mike?
Low pressure week, Eagles 6-2 and heading to the bye, so we don't have to worry about a game this weekend. Off the top, the trade the Eagles made for Michael Carter II, the slot corner for the Jets. How do you think that, we've been pretty accustomed to seeing Cooper DeJean in that spot. How do you think that fits for them moving forward and the calculus for the rest of the year with the cornerback situation with the Eagles?
It's really intriguing because I get a kick out of watching Vic Fangio's press conference every week. And I'm sure you guys talked about what he said earlier this week prior to the trade about that position in Cooper DeJean. And basically, what he said makes a ton of sense. Like, you got a guy playing at a really high level, at a very difficult position, and if you kick him outside, he might not be quite as effective or impactful, I think is the word Vic used, because he's not involved as much.
Yep.
Right? The outside corners are not involved as much as nickels are, who have run fits as much as they have pass responsibilities. So if you take this kid from the Jets, who's predominantly an inside player, a nickel, and a good nickel, and you move Cooper outside full time, you take a chance at really, not helping yourself significantly and maybe even hurting yourself. So I'm guessing that Joe Douglas, who was the Jets GM, had a lot of background with Howie as far as this kid goes, drafting him out of Duke. When I saw his tape coming out of college, he played a lot of positions at Duke, but most of the league had him as a nickel, and that's where he's played. So I have trouble seeing Nick making that move. I think you're going to see this kid outside and see if he's an upgrade over what they have.
And then if I could ask you to put your GM hat on, because there was a rumor today from Charles Robinson from Yahoo saying that some high-ranking people in the league believe that Howie Roseman is trying to make a play for Myles Garrett. And the deal that Robinson brought up was 3 first-round picks. So as a general manager, he is a great player, no doubt, Myles Garrett. How do you measure the value of what that one player can bring versus the future value of those 3 picks? And if you were in that position, how would you decide that?
Well, I mean, I think what Howie has shown is he's developed his reputation, as Trader Howie or whatever you want to call him. But he's been really good at making moves throughout the year, not just the trade deadline. So I think every time a big-name guy comes up for trade at the trade deadline, potentially in the rumor mill, somebody's going to assign him to the Eagles.
Yeah.
Okay? That's just because Howie's so active. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the media mill is going to push people at the Eagles every year. Does he make sense for the Eagles and or for Cleveland to move? The devil's in the details. And the Eagles would have to figure out a way to get that done, both with the compensation and the salary cap. And also Cleveland would have to get it done. If you're Andrew Berry, their GM, you got to find a way. All that money they just paid him is going to accelerate into dead cap space immediately. So does it even make sense for Cleveland? They already have 2 first-round picks this year, by the way, right? So I get a kick out of all the stuff that gets thrown around. I would say the odds of that happening are less than 5%, maybe less than 1%.
Let's say the Eagles don't do anything major, Mike, at the trade deadline. That they may make a little ancillary move for some depth or what have you. Do you like where the roster is at and sort of where they're headed from a playing standpoint on the field when you look at the rest of the NFC? Do you like where the Eagles are trending at this point moving forward?
I do. And,
Okay.
the sky was falling a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the process and hanging in there, and that's what's happened the last 2 weeks. I give their coaching staff some credit, Ike. I mean, we talked a week ago about, how they got under center,
Mm-hmm.
how they had 6 offensive linemen. They continued that last week. And they threw in, I think the coaching staff did a nice job with, they threw in some other stuff in the run game, especially some key breakers in shotgun, which I hadn't seen them do much of. They ran counter to the offset back. They ran toss to the offset back into the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
They did some things they don't usually do, is what I'm trying to say, over the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
which is going to make it harder for teams to defend them going forward. So I like where they're going. I think these next 2 games, and this is not a newsflash, I think the NFC is wide open, and the whole league is wide open. And I think Green Bay and Detroit are going to be 2 huge tests as to where the Eagles are. And, you're going to come out of a bye and play at Green Bay on a Monday night, come back home on a short week and play Detroit. 2 really physical, high-level teams. It would be disappointing, and I'm not even talking about the win-loss results. It would be disappointing to see them come out on the offensive side of the ball and play like they did 3 or 4 weeks ago. Right. That's the way I'm looking at it,
Yeah.
is continuing the progress and competing in those 2 games in all 3 phases.
Mike, you mentioned the scheme stuff in the offense and specifically the run game. How much do you think in that specific game against the Giants was that, and how much was the offensive line just doing a better job at the things that they hadn't done a good job of? We talk to Jordan Mailata every week, who seemed to be pretty frustrated, not just with his own play, but overall he seemed to think that there were a lot of execution issues from the offensive line. So how much of that success did you see just in their execution, and how much was scheme?
How about you, Spike? Actually being positive here. I like
Oh, look, man.
Wow.
All right.
Let's go.
Mike, you and I got to have a talk. You do a show next to Ike. You got to beat me. He's positive about everything.
I mean, that was cool. That was a good way to look at this. And actually, in my notes, that's what I have.
There you go. See? You don't have to go back in and compliment. Yeah.
This Toss kid, I mean, he struggled for a couple of weeks. And what I loved with that whole perimeter that I just talked about in the run game, the perimeter run game, he looks to me like he is a better player on the move than trying to fight big bodies in the middle of the offensive line. And I thought he did a really nice job last week. I thought Mailata had a better game, to be honest with you. I was nervous the first snap of the game. Lane Johnson tripped and fell. Nobody touched him. He just tripped and fell on his kick slide. And I was like, oh, no, really? And the defensive end came flying in, and, of course, Jalen had to sprint away from it. But I think the flip side of this, guys, just because me, I try to keep things real.
Yep.
With all the good stuff we're talking about, the thing that I think is still lacking is the pass game out of shotgun, and it still needs to get efficient. They had, I want to say, 16 shotguns. And I think it was the first 3 quarters. I forget what I had it for, but 16 shotgun passes with 5 scrambles and a sack. Okay? And the best thing they did was in their 2-minute drill. In that 2-minute drill, they hit Smitty twice, a comeback and a slant. Then they hit the tight end, got it for a touchdown. That looked like a drop-back shotgun offense. But the rest of it, I want to say, of the first 8 shotguns, I think they had 5 scrambles or 4 scrambles, a check down and a screen. It was like, what are you doing? So the efficiency of the shotgun pass offense, which is a huge part of what they do, that's what I'm looking for to continue to develop. And when they got under center and threw the ball last week, Like in the first half, they were 2 for 2. Both of them wide open inside dig routes to Smitty, for 42 yards, plus 14, plus 28. So I love the continuation of the under center play action game.
Is the just to because you're the first person that's brought up. We've all talked about the pass game issues, incessantly throughout the year. You're the first one to point out the shotgun pass game issues. Is that something where they're not because one of the things that we've talked about with Jalen is letting go of the ball early. Is that what the issue is with the shotgun pass game, or is it a bunch of different things that are sort of clouding why why they haven't been successful there?
I think there's some things that we're all just going to have to live with Jalen, okay? And whether or not he's an anticipatory thrower and those kinds of things, the way I look at this thing is, okay, Jalen is who he is. And what he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I don't care if you rank him 5 or 9 or whatever, but he's been to two Super Bowls in 3 years. You can win with him. Not every quarterback is good at everything. So having said that, that's why I mentioned the 2-minute offense.
Yeah.
They were getting under center. They were in a hurry. The ball was coming out, and it looked like what you would see with other teams when they're in gun. And keep in mind, you're in gun a high percentage of the time when you're throwing the football. So it's not a minor thing, and I'm not trying to be negative at all. I'm just saying when I watched the tape, the only thing that jumped out to me negative on the offensive side of the ball was just continuing to develop the shotgun pass game. And it got, even where they threw an incompletion near the end of the half, I think it was Smitty on a seam or a skinny post, and I was happy with that because he threw it on time and he threw it over his head because he wasn't wide open, and that's fine in the end zone. This is right before they scored. Those are the kind of throws you want to see keep happening, because literally, I'm looking at my notes. I pulled my notes out. Here's the shotgun pass game at the beginning of the game: scramble, screen plus 12, scramble, jet sweep plus 3, check down, scramble. That's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. First 7 plays in gun. It's not efficient that way, and it's not sustainable unless you've got a great run game.
All right, Mike. We appreciate you calling. Thanks again for moving. We will talk to you next week. We'll be looking ahead to a huge game, as you mentioned, Monday night against Green Bay. Actually, now that we have you, Green Bay is sort of they've got a great record. They've only lost one game. Of course, they tied to tied the Cowboys. Yeah. Every time you watch them, they're sort of like a hard team to figure out from an identity standpoint, or how good they actually are. What have you seen from the Packers so far? We'll talk about it next week. But now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, their head coach is their play caller, and I think that he's highly adaptable game to game on what he wants to highlight. And obviously that's a problem, especially when they've got an ability to run the ball with Josh Jacobs, who we drafted out in Vegas. And I love Josh. He's as tough as they come, and he's a special running back. And Jordan Love has developed this year, 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's always had a whip for an arm. They drafted the golden kid in the first round. The offensive line's pretty good. So offensively, they're a bit of a headache to deal with because they can kind of take what you don't do well and go attack it.
All right, Mike. We will talk to you next week. Thanks as always, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
There he is, Mike Mayock with his backhanded compliment. That call presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday, all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. Look, if the team's playing good, I'll be positive. If they're playing bad, I'm going to be negative, Mike.
That was awesome. I was not expecting that.